March 14, 2012, my son Thomas lost his battle with the disease of addiction. I now belong to a club that no parent should ever belong to. Do you know the signs? Do you know the trends that children are doing in today's world? Do you know the signs and symptoms? Do you know the signs and symptoms of drug abuse? I want to empower and educate Long Islanders by bringing a force of professionals and how to prevent the disease of addiction. Long Island in Crisis. Good evening and welcome to Long Island in Crisis. First and foremost, I want to wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving, many blessings for the holiday season. Tonight we have a really special guests. So Kim Laube is back from Hugs, and we're going to talk about prevention, and we're going to introduce you to two outstanding young adults that have made the decision to be drug and alcohol free, and just want to show the empowerment of kids. Just if you teach them, they will, we have to do better in our society. We just have to do a little bit better, do a few things a little bit different. And I want to just read something. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, become more, you are a leader. And that's the back of the Hugs t-shirt that I was actually wearing this morning, and I thought, wow, that's what I want to do with young people, with parents, with anyone, that if you have an open mind, what we can do to really gain some headway with our young generation coming up to not have them get involved with this insidious disease of addiction. Welcome, Kim Laube.
Thank you, Linda Ventura. I love being here.
Absolutely. So, I know Friday night we were at Congressman Zeldin's panel, and I was sitting on the panel, and I really didn't get much out of the evening, unfortunately. And I think it's a learning process. But overwhelmingly, the actions of politicians is to now try to put the proverbial hat back on the box, sure, or however that statement goes.
Sure.
We can't be reactive to this anymore. We have to be proactive and preventative on the upcoming generation. It needs to be hit from all sides. But if we don't really start paying a lot more attention to all the kids coming up, because like we said last week, the world moves at a very quick pace.
Yeah.
So how do you create these outrageous young people?
Well, I don't know that we create the outrageous young people.
Well, you certainly add to the...
Yeah, I think we have a little, Hugs does a lot of things, and obviously public speaking, serving on task force, going to forums like we had the other night. We have some programs going on, some evidence-based programs in school. We have an after-school program. But our signature program, the one that I accredit with saving my life, the one that I've seen really shift and impact other young people's lives, is a program that takes place on Shelter Island for 3 days, and it gives...
Changed my life.
Right? Isn't that awesome?
It really did. It was so empowering.
We need adult volunteers to do our program. And what I love is when our adults, they work a 40, 50-hour work week, then they give of their weekend, come Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then they have to go back to work Monday morning, and they come and volunteer for us, and then they thank me. And that blows my mind, that they're thanking me for this opportunity, because the opportunity is very unique in a lot of ways. It's very empowering, it's very inspiring, but it's really based on science, and that's kind of an interesting concept. Nobody really gets that we're based on science, but our whole business is about prevention. I want to just go back just a little bit to talking about prevention in the fact of everybody's talking now about this crisis, and
Yes.
everybody's trying to figure out what they can do, and your real soldiers that we need in this are your prevention providers and your folks who do this for a living, and they really need to be at the table. So I encourage any assemblyman, congressman,
Yes.
anybody who is looking to do a public forum like they had the other night, to make sure that you get a prevention specialist there.
Absolutely.
Because we have to have prevention at the table if we're going to change this. So we know we're in crisis. We know this thing needs to be changed. And myself, my colleagues have really come to a point where we have to stop talking about where addiction ends. We have to address that. But we need to shift at least part of the conversation to where it begins. And we know that addiction is an adolescent disease. It is a disease of the brain. And we know that because people smarter than us have been researching it for a very, very long time. And if you talk to anybody, and we've talked about this on the show here, if you talk to anybody who has fortunately found recovery, they will tell you that it started with that first drink or that first joint that they picked up in their early teen years, innocently at a party. Now, in some ways we have this perfect storm. We've got these, families who kind of believe that our kids are going to do it anyway, let's keep them safe.
Or I did it.
I did it, right? And
No
I
big
got
deal.
away with it, right? And then this idea of it's just kids being kids. At some point, we have to say it's not okay that kids are just being kids, and this is the behavior they're engaged in. Because as I travel the country, and I travel even Suffolk County and Nassau County, more and more I come across parents who talk about their kid being at a house party and a fight broke out. And one party I just heard of that took place in the western Suffolk County area, 6 ambulances pulled kids out. Now, that was well-intentioned parents who felt that they were really doing the right thing. They hired security. They checked with other parents. There was a guest list. And even with all these protective things, once young people were all in an area and they began drinking, something blew up. And I don't know what that something was. But that's one of the risks associated with
Yeah, I
this.
don't know if you remember a few years ago in Babylon, when on New Year's Eve, when I think 13 or 14 years old,
Yeah.
so intoxicated that he passed out in the woods, and he died from certainly too much alcohol and exposure. So, we talk, so I'll talk from my point of view, having lost my son. Other parents get very upset with the word prevention.
Oh, yeah, I know.
And I don't feel any guilt. As crazy as that may, I did the best that I could at the
Absolutely.
moment in time that I was. Certainly, always, you can be the Monday morning quarterback and I'm older, I'm wiser, I'm much more educated on the disease of addiction. So would I have tackled it differently? I don't know.
Yeah.
It happened exactly the way it was going to happen.
Yeah.
So this is not to shame anyone or to make anyone feel bad or to criticize parents in any
Absolutely.
way, shape, or form.
Absolutely, yeah.
This is to empower you to do an even better job.
Sure. Absolutely.
And that's really the point that I think that we have to go back to. This is not a criticism of any parent. We're both parents.
Absolutely.
Listen, we all have our moments in time where you say, oh man, I wish I could take that back. And it's okay for young people to see you make a mistake.
It's interesting because I am going to share this show with my son today. And even in my parenting, as much as I knew or have known or have learned, there are a bunch of times I wish I got a do-over, right?
Yeah.
There are a bunch of times. The awesome thing is we do get do-overs, and we do have opportunities sometimes to just think about things a little different. I think part of our culture here has been one that just totally accepts kids drinking as just part of the norm, and they're going to, and I appreciate all that. I think there comes a point, though, now we have to start questioning, but is that still working for us? Is
Right.
that still our best strategy? And I think we have a lot of science to support that it may not be. So then what do you do becomes the question, right? If the norm, I just want to go back just real quick. It used to be the norm we smoked everywhere. We smoked in restaurants, we smoked in
the
hospitals,
movies, exactly.
airplanes, right? And now today, if you travel a different state who doesn't have the laws that we have, and all of a sudden you realize people are smoking in your space, you're like, whoa, because we forget. It was not that long ago that you could walk through a supermarket with a cigarette in your hand and nobody questioned it, right? But we became smarter. We became wiser.
We realize
And
secondhand smoke kills.
right? And there was
Yeah.
a health consequence to it. I can only hope that some of the same principles we did to learn and teach people how to quit smoking really educated our kids so well that if you were a smoker, and I was a smoker up until 9 years ago, I was a smoker, and the kids would come home from school and be like, I learned at school that was bad, Mom, and it made me think about my behavior. So it's those cultural shifts and changes that can begin to take place when we begin to get good, accurate information. And I also want to say, going back to your question, parents can do everything 100% right, right? They can do everything 100%, and in so many ways they have. The environment and
Yes.
what the peer groups are doing is where kids can get caught up. So it's mom and dad could do everything right. There doesn't have to be a crisis in the family. It could be, a family
Absolutely.
that has done all awesome things together and has really worked together. And then it just takes one particular thing at one particular party.
And that person not having that shut-off switch.
Yeah. And that's
And
what's
that
so
you
important
can't control.
Absolutely.
You couldn't control them getting appendicitis.
Yeah.
You can't control anyone getting the disease of addiction. It's not a moral failing. It's not a moral choice.
Yeah.
It's not any of those things.
It's just health.
It's just health.
And in some cases, well, in all cases, we know that alcohol, marijuana, in so many ways, if we just think of it as the gasoline that gets popped onto a fire and it just kicks it off. And I was one of those people who didn't have a shut-off valve. I couldn't.
Right.
I couldn't. And people would look and say, well, just drink just a little bit, Kim, or don't let yourself get out of control, or just, and I would try. But once that was in my system,
More was never enough.
absolutely. And the fight just wasn't there for me. I couldn't stop once I started. So what can we do when it comes to young people? Well, we know a couple of things we can do. First and foremost, let's give kids the opportunity to really understand what's going on inside, right? Because it's such a confusing time. Middle school, high school is such a confusing time, and we don't know where we fit in.
And it's not like when we were younger.
Absolutely,
It really
no.
isn't. There's so much more, and each generation, I'm sure, says there's more pressure, but they have so much bombarding of media, of social media, of everything coming at them.
Constantly. Social media is an awesome thing, but for some kids it's like, navigating through a social minefield
Yeah.
in some sense. But so is walking through the hallways at school. And one of the things we need to talk about more are all the different pressures that are coming on kids today, and the need to specialize, and the need to perform, and the need to do better. And so for so many of our young people, simply being at a party Friday night is for them. It's them letting loose and letting steam off, the same as adults tend to do
absolutely.
that behavior as well. So working on giving them really good, solid information, really good skills, but helping young people find that they matter, I look at all the different things we teach in our program, and we teach a lot. And because I went to the program when I was 16, I will tell you, I learned a lot. There was a lot of information. But for the first time in my life, I found out that I mattered. Not because people never told me that before, but I never heard it in such a powerful way. And I realized, because somebody said, you're going to make a difference out there. And they believed in me when I had no idea how to believe in myself. And so our seminars are really around a lot of that, helping young people find what their I ams are.
Yes.
Because we live in a world where we know where I am not, and we can live in the world of where we don't understand any, we tend to pay more attention to what we don't like about ourselves than value what we like about ourselves.
Absolutely.
And so the weekend, for me, I got to learn some skills, got to meet other kids, got to find that there was this network of kids who were just trying to figure it out the same as I was trying to figure it out.
And struggling with the same issues.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And when it's so freeing when there are a lot of other people who feel exactly the way you are, you don't feel like that weirdo.
Yeah.
There's no other way to,
Sure.
especially for a kid. You feel,
Right.
I can't tell anybody this because they're going to think I'm a loser or a weirdo.
Yeah, or why am I thinking that
Right.
way? Or, just don't let things bother you. Let them roll them. All those different things. And so creating that space and that opportunity for kids to learn how to find their voice and to embrace that voice and to fine-tune that voice so they can go out and really empower whatever subgroup that they're in. So we have kids on Shelter Island. We have your athletes and your academics and your theater kids, and your kids are on who don't necessarily fit into any of the above, right? And they find a way to coexist together and learn about each other. So in the process of them learning about each other, that sets them up to help navigate the halls of the school, the halls of school or the lunchroom or whatever it is. They're just better equipped because when we have an understanding about each other, boy, really that makes the world a whole lot more awesome in so many ways.
I think also just being there that weekend, having the ability or learning how to not judge. Because you may make an assumption about somebody, not knowing what they're going through at that particular moment in time, that day. So you may say, oh, I don't want to be around. Look at them.
Sure. Yeah.
But you don't know what transpired in their life. And just saying, because if I'm feeling the same way one day and someone says to me, hey, you okay? Sometimes that's all you need to hear because you matter.
Yeah.
So we'll be right back after this message with 2 other guests.
Hi, I'm Tatiana, and I'm a person in long-term recovery from heroin addiction. It was really, really hard, waking up in the morning, not knowing what to do, needing my next bag. I was so lost, but I'm here today to tell you that there is a solution. When I was in my active addiction, I didn't realize that there was another way of life. I thought that that was the only way, because it felt so good to get high, but it was all an illusion, and I didn't realize that. But today, being 4 years clean and sober, my life is absolutely amazing. I'm able to travel, I don't need a drink, I don't need a drug. I'm just happy being with myself. I couldn't understand for many years why was I doing this? It's because I was an addict, but I didn't know it. Today, many kids are becoming addicted to drugs and alcohol, but they don't know exactly what they're getting into until they're out of it. And it's our job, it's my job, to stand for these kids, stand for their recovery, and fight for their addiction. So I'm the president of Onward Forever, and I provide recovery services and support. And we're here to help. We're here to just listen. Anything that we can do to help. If you need me, this is how you get a hold of me. Please call 347-244-1550. 347-244-1550. I developed this company to help you, our families, and our community to fight this crisis on Long Island and in our nation. Thank you.
Galaxy Luxury Coach is a full-service limousine and party bus company. Family-owned and operated, we are an industry leader with over 25 years of experience in providing best-in-class luxury transportation for your special event. Whether it's your precious wedding day, an all-day wine tour out east, your high school prom, that special birthday, or just an amazing night on the town, our professional chauffeurs stand ready to ensure your special event is truly special. Galaxy Luxury Coach has one of the largest and modern party bus fleets in the New York area. Our party buses are simply nightclubs on wheels. Concert sound systems, light shows, lasers and strobes, multicolor LED lighting brilliantly lights your party bus inside and out. For corporate and more laid-back events, we will cater to your specific needs and requests. What sets Galaxy aside from all others in the luxury transportation industry is our attention to detail in customizing our services to your special event. At Galaxy, it's all about you and your guests. Galaxy customers return time and time again because they know they can trust Galaxy to help deliver those lifetime memorable moments. Step aboard and let your Galaxy experience begin.
Welcome back to Long Island in Crisis, and we're just going to wait a few more minutes before our younger guests join us, because we're just trying to really give you an overview of how we can empower our young people. So important to empower our young people. So many questions they have, and it's just a fact of our society that everyone's at warp speed.
Absolutely.
You know, parents need to work a lot just to, to create the environment that they want for their families. So it's not anybody's fault or judgment or anything else. It's just the way life is sometimes.
It's amazing if you travel off of Long Island, right? And I've had the opportunity all this year to do that, and other years too, but this year in particular. And you get to other towns and villages, and it's slowed down just a little bit. We operate in Suffolk County at warp speed. We're going. We're jumping from job to job. We're running our kids from this trainer to that trainer to this specialty class to that one. It's busy lives that we have here, and which is awesome and great, right? And so how do we learn to still navigate through, even as adults, the stressors of that?
Without a doubt, but there's a certain thing to be said for just listening. And it doesn't have to be an hour, but 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at night, just to listen to one another. And I think that's kind of the family dinner table doesn't happen too often anymore. And I remember being a kid, and I'm the youngest of 5 kids, so 7 people sitting around a table, and you waiting, and me being the youngest. So that's maybe why I talk loud, because I needed to be heard at some point in time to speak over other people. But, we had that banter going on at the dinner table. For better, for worse, for whatever. That's where you got to say a lot of, what happened to you during the day, and where you learned things by watching your parents interact and listening.
One of the things I had a young person say to me once, they said, Kim, we're the most connected generation, and yet we all walk around so disconnected. And I thought that was such a profound statement, and out of the mouths of babes, right? Because what it really talked to is, we have all these ways to communicate, whether it's on our computers, our iPads, our cell phones, whether it's living out on social media virtually somewhere. But the truth is, more and more the young people I talk to, they really feel a disconnect. They feel a disconnect to, if they're not plugged in, then they don't know how to navigate it. And so, again, some of these skills are really skills we have to be paying attention to, and really beginning to nurture them at home a little bit more, and really embrace them and find those opportunities, whether we're in the car driving from place to place, to just really have dialogue and really have conversation. And one of the awesome things, we do in our family, and we certainly suggest it in many other families, is when you can, in certain moments, everybody's got to put that cell phone away.
Absolutely.
Everybody has to put it away. And whether it's dinner, your first night when your kids come home from college, or whether it is, driving down the road.
Maybe not the first night.
Maybe not the first night. But it becomes important to really sit and just talk with each other and spend some time and have that eye contact. And
that was one of the most profound things for me that weekend, was having young people make eye contact. Because that is something that my dad used to always say, if someone won't look you in the eye, they're not telling you the truth. So to be able to look at somebody and really speak to someone, you're speaking into each other's soul. That's how I look at things. That's when you really make a connection. You can say a lot of things by text and by email, but you don't get the you often hear things differently
Sure.
while reading a text.
We just did a training with kids this weekend on Shelter Island. I spent the weekend on Shelter Island with about 15 kids who are going to become our leaders, and they're going to run our programs all year long for us, which is, we've been peer-led since day one, and a peer facilitated program, because kids can really impact their peers, and they can do it in a very
Absolutely.
positive way. And so one of the things we talk about is, out of 100% of the meaning behind words, only 7% of it comes from the written text. 7%. So the 93% comes from our body language, how we sounded when we said it,
Absolutely.
what was the tone of our voice. Here's the problem in how we communicate with text messaging and even Facebook statuses or whatever it is. We're only getting 7% because we're only getting the written word, which is why emojis become so important for people to be able to, let you
Smiley
know I
face,
was
yeah.
just joking. I was,
Yeah.
The winky face eye, whatever that emoji is. But we needed to rely on those emojis to help get the emotion across, because only 93% comes from those things we don't even have there to help navigate. So one of the awesome things about Shelter Island is voluntarily the kids give up their cell phones. And for some kids, they've told me, gosh, it was tough at first. I didn't want to give my cell phone up. And for other kids, they felt relief. They felt like, gosh.
Well, I saw them that Friday night. They were really,
Uh-huh.
and not feeling it. But by Saturday afternoon, to watch, how many kids were there that weekend?
I think
100?
we had almost 100 that weekend, yeah.
100 kids
Uh-huh.
playing Frisbee, having a catch, playing a guitar and singing,
Yeah.
just being
Doing all those natural high things, right? Mm-hmm.
and enjoying one another's company.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
That 8 kids could sit around. But again, for me, the impact was our group of 10 people, and to listen to what kids, adolescents are dealing with,
Yeah.
the problems that they're dealing with.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And, it's fascinating because sometimes people think we're a program for kids who are high risk, kids who need counseling. No, we leave the counseling up to the counselors. We need those kids need more intervention and treatment than they need prevention. Our program is really designed around kids who are just walking through life, who are just walking through some pretty day-to-day stuff in life. And some of them have awesome natural leadership ability, and some of them haven't begun to realize their leadership potential. And it's our job through designed workshops to help bring that out in young people. So,
But they find other strengths other than being a
Absolutely.
leader. Some, doing through like the obstacle, when we were when we had to figure things out at
the
each
personal
station.
challenge course.
Yes.
Yeah.
That
right?
somebody stepped up and was a leader, but somebody stepped up and figured out how to get the task accomplished.
Absolutely.
While the leader said, okay, great. So cooperation and working
Yeah.
together and all those
and how we
things.
need each other.
Yes.
Yeah, all of our whether it's the personal challenge courses, which is what you're speaking of, or a presentation, they're all designed to help young people build their individual protective factors, right?
Yes.
And then teach them how to be in community with others. So if we help young people build their individual protective factors, they're going to be better students, they're going to be better family members, they're going to be better on the football team or the baseball team, they'll be better captains, right? And if you help kids really find their full potential, they're going to do better on their SATs and their ACTs and all that, because they've learned how to reduce some of the stressors in their life. They've learned how to really design some healthy ways to navigate through some of that stuff, right?
And confidence.
And confidence, right? So we expect all kids to have self-esteem. And I've shared this before. I speak to about 20,000 kids a year, and I'll ask them the question, how many of them had an adult say you have to have self-esteem? And they'll all raise their hand. And then I ask them, how many adults have ever shown you how? And all the hands go down. And self-esteem is pivotal in so many different arenas. So I don't look at the young people we deal with. I look at all young people right now as at risk, because
Yes.
addiction touches everybody in any way. And so there's no identified group that says you're less at risk, you're more at risk. We know that all young people are at risk. We've been saying that for quite some time
Yes.
now, but I think people are really starting to get the point now in a very different way. So we can have a large group workshop at Hugs where we have somebody come in and teach you how to shake hands in a business setting, how to look somebody in the eye, how to own your space, how to be the best you could be, how to write a resume, Jen Lebowitz has done a great workshop
Yes.
on how to organize your life and set you up for academic success. That goes across all different types, all the different
absolutely.
walks of life we see out there. We've had people come out and teach them how to really be a leader and understand their leadership style. Because if you teach just one type of leader, then you've trained just one type of leader. But our goal is to teach leadership at many different levels so that they go back into their each individual group, and there is a beacon in that group. There's somebody who has awareness now, who has some really good information, and who could be a go-to person, whether it's, again, for the athlete, for the theater kid, for the academic kid, that there's one person in there who's been trained to really understand a whole lot about life, a whole lot about the world, and can help find resources if resources are needed, if their peers happen to be in a crisis. So there's a variety of educational opportunities that take place on our weekend seminars, along with clear, accurate information, great opportunities to learn how to build skills, and really how to go out into the community and be those change makers, because that's what we need. We need to help young people find other young people who want to go out and be change makers. And oftentimes, unfortunately, when it comes to our schools and kids, that sometimes a lot of the kids who are engaged in the most high-risk behavior are also the same kids who are being given titles like captains and presidents
Absolutely.
of clubs and all that.
So they are leading.
They're leading, right?
It's where are they leading your child?
Yeah. And so
we're going to be right back after this message, and we're going to bring Jordan and Cameron on and hear it from their perspective. We'll be right back.
My name is Dr. Robert Brevard. I'm here for Multi-Medicine in Westbury, New York. We're located at 1065 Old Country Road, Suite 214. Been here for about 15 years. The practice has medical doctors, physical therapists, chiropractors, acupuncturists. We also do pain management, and we have orthopedists on staff. Here at Advanced Multi-Medicine Rehabilitation, we've got physical therapists on staff who treat an array of conditions, from neck pain to back pain, shoulder pain. We treat carpal tunnel. We treat a lot of car accident patients, slip and falls. We treat patients with knee injuries, with ankle injuries. We have state-of-the-art equipment. We've been here for over 15 years. Vast array of diagnostic testing, from x-rays to EMGs. What is an EMG? It's a diagnostic test that allows a doctor to determine where the pinched nerve is. Cora is a physical therapist at Advanced Multi-Medicine and Rehabilitation. She's working on Stephanie, who was involved recently in an automobile accident. Stephanie has tight thoracic and cervical musculature, and Cora is doing some myofascial release work and some therapeutic stretching, doing it to help her with her pain. Vicky is also a patient here at Advanced Multi-Medicine and Rehabilitation. Vicky is now working her leg muscles, specifically her quadricep muscles, trying to strengthen them after an injury she sustained. If you find yourself in need of any type of physical therapy, please don't hesitate to call Advanced Multi-Medicine and Rehabilitation, located in Westbury, New York, in Suite 214. Phone number is 516-334-7000, or find us on our website at advancedmultimedicine.com.
Could switching to Geico really save you 15% or more on car insurance? Do dogs chase cats?
15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
What are you looking for? You don't even know that. Are you on the ball there, so you can't even answer. I'm asking you about it. You gotta be highly skilled. You gotta be highly skilled. You understand that? Are you well versed there? Are you very smart man? Hit me with some funny shit. My shit's twisted. Tell me something. Tell me something.
What do you have right there?
That's awesome.
Well,
that's a big.
That's nice. You know damn well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Sir, are you interested in twisted talent?
yes, I am. Sure. See, you got twisted.
That's twisted. That's talent. You see what I'm saying? You understand me? And if you can't whip out answers like that, that man is liable to door to commercial break, punch your fucking mouth loose. You understand me? Time is up, sir. You understand me? You're on. You're the man. All right, give me your name now. I'm sorry.
My name is Willie.
Willie, where you working at?
We are twisted. We are awesome. Love awesome.
Can you repeat that question again?
What are you looking for?
Welcome back to Long Island Crisis, and we're so happy to have Jordan and Cameron joining us. And Jordan is Kim Lauby's son.
Poor kid.
And we're not going to hold that against him. Or, in your case, try to ignore the mom in the room. So I want to ask you, though, how did, obviously, you grew up in a family where prevention was 24/7, and never mind the fact that your dad is a police officer, so you really were queued up to be on track. But how did that impact you, navigating school?
Well, a lot of kids viewed me as the one that didn't go out and party, the one that kind of like, not had no life in a sense, but like, oh, well, what'd you do for fun? What'd you do on weekends? And like, oh, there's more outside of drinking. So having a dad that's a cop and a mom that does prevention for a living, people view it as a buzzkill, but honestly, it's a blessing because then I don't get involved in addiction. I don't get involved in trying to be cool, trying to get drunk or get more drunk than someone else, competition, all of that. And it improves my performances in so many places. And the hardest part is just fitting in and finding my group or my clique that I want to be
peeps.
around. Yeah.
Yeah.
My peeps. Yeah,
Your
exactly.
peeps. Exactly.
And just like trying to navigate was really struggling freshman year, but by the time I got senior year, I kind of mastered it.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And you were on the football team.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you, as a athlete, navigate that?
Well, just getting in touch with people just on like a more personal level rather than, oh, I got so drunk this weekend, I hooked up with so-and-so, like, all this stuff. That's just talk to me. Like, that doesn't mean anything significant. And that's my goal. Like, that's the culture I don't like,
Okay.
I like my style of culture where it's more, get more connected, be on a more personal level. Don't just be about, oh, I'm going to do something and then I'm going to forget about it because I got way too drunk. I'd rather remember something I do rather than forget it.
And how did your peers react to that, especially on the football team? Because, athletes have a certain reputation.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean that in a negative, negative way, but athletes have a certain, did they give you a hard time in the locker room?
Well,
did they just come to get to know you as you?
Well, it's not necessarily like, oh, you don't drink. Like, people kind of knew I didn't drink because I wasn't at parties, so they never saw me drinking. So it was kind of, they assumed I didn't drink because I never went out. So it's not that they said, oh, you don't drink, oh, you're not this. It's just I wasn't included with the more popular group. And being a captain with two other captains that did drink and did smoke, that kind of not made conflict, but they kind of made decisions for the team by themselves and didn't include me as much.
Right, that's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Cameron, you are a student leader. You're a senior now.
Mm-hmm.
So how has Hugs really impacted your thought process? And do you see yourself, different from your peers or more empowered than your peers?
Definitely more empowered. It gives you something to stand for. You're standing for drug and alcohol prevention awareness, and it it is challenging going through high school in a school where everyone goes out every weekend, but the program Hugs does help you find a group of people that aren't going to be doing that, and it's going to help you connect with them. So when your whole school is going out to a party, you can call up your Hugs friends and go see a movie or something. You don't have to go to these parties to have friends, basically.
Do you feel ostracized in school at all, or do you just,
Not necessarily.
Okay.
No, because there are kids in my school, the people that I'm friends with in my school, they respect what I do, and they're not like peer pressuring me like some kids do face peer pressure, but I personally haven't. I think just because they know that that's not what I do, and I'm confident in that, and Hugs gives me that confidence to tell them, like, no, I'm not going to a party, I'm not going to drink, I'm not going to smoke, because that's who I am, and they respect that when you have a certain confidence.
And I love that you just said that word, because I often say to a lot of people, people can criticize me, especially with the shame and stigma of this disease. So people who don't know me or know my family or how my children were raised or any of those things can look at me and into my life and make certain assumptions. I don't care what they think.
Yeah.
Because they don't know me. And I'm confident in the person that I am. So there's the key, I think, right? When you have the confidence to know who you are, and it doesn't matter who an acquaintance may think of you, because it doesn't impact your life in any way, shape, or form.
As somebody who works with young people, and obviously have raised them, right? As I listen to them, they do share sometimes that it's tough when you're not in with the mainstream and you stand for something. And although we can look at young people who are standing for something and think that, gosh, that's so awesome, right? But when
we're adults,
absolutely, and when it's sometimes it's not always seen as so awesome, right? As we see it.
It's a tough walk.
Oh my gosh. And, in giving, one of the things Cameron talked about is how do we connect to other kids who are making those same decisions? How do we, how does Jordan find a group to hang out with on a
Your
Friday
peeps.
night? Your peeps, right? And how do you find those support systems of kids who say, you know what, we just want to, we stand for something, we want to do something a little bit different. And we need more of those opportunities. And we need to, and the adults need to find ways to celebrate that,
Without a doubt.
Yeah. And to really applaud it, because it's huge to be a young person who says, you know what, I want to make the world better. I want to make some good choices for myself. I want to set myself up for some success, and I want to make the world better. And both of these young people have, one of the things they haven't talked about is the difference they've made in the lives of others. Not only did they choose to get involved with Hugs, they also chose to stick with it, which isn't always, Cameron and I were talking on the car right up. It's easy to be and say you're going to be drug and alcohol free when you're in 9th and 10th grade, but by the time you hit 11th and 12th, it's tough to stick with.
It's a challenge.
Really tough to stick with. And so having...
Is it worth sticking with?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you look at your peers, everyone wants to go to a Division I school and play football, right? You made it. Did a lot of other people on your team make it?
No.
Interesting. Now, that's not a criticism. It's just a statement.
Yeah.
But everyone, parents think that their child is going to be the one that's going to get the scholarship, especially on Long Island, and it's usually slim to none, and Slim left the room 15 minutes ago. So that's not a criticism. That's just competition throughout the country to get these slots. But if you allow certain behaviors that destroys your peak performance training by drinking on a weekend, and you don't empower your kid to get good SATs, because I'm quite sure that if you're using drugs and alcohol, you're not really going to score awesome on your SATs. So talk a little bit about that. How did the rest of your team feel when did they have excuses why you got the Division I scholarship? No?
No, nothing really. It's just congratulations, great job, you earned it, all this stuff. So I don't think anyone really looked at it the drug and alcohol perspective. They looked at it as a perspective of, oh, he worked hard, he deserves it. Oh,
Okay.
he does this and this. And I don't think I deserved it. I just think I worked hard for what I got.
You absolutely did. So talk to us about how you did impact other people, and how does that make you feel?
Well, sometimes I don't really notice that I'm impacting someone until I get, because at Hugs we get letters at the end of the weekend from everyone in our family group, and people will put in my letter like, oh, this was such a great weekend, thank you for being such an amazing student leader, you really changed like my outlook on the world, and I'm not really noticing that I'm doing anything, I'm just kind of being me the way that the program has shaped me as a leader, and it's a great feeling. It's awesome when someone tells you that you made an impact on their weekend and you made it so great, and how they're going to try to be drug and alcohol free because of something you did. And that's the empowering part of it too, is you know that you changed someone's life for the better.
Does it make you want to do that more?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm actually really interested in community service work. That's what I want to do when I get older, like foreign service work.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And Jordan, how does... You have changed, I'm quite sure of it, a lot of people. I mean, you and I had the opportunity to speak to the 8th graders together, and you were very impactful on them, because you shared about being bullied when you were younger, and I think that happens more than not in school every day. So to hear it from somebody who is a football player and everything that you've become as a senior in high school, because this was last year. So when you're in 8th grade, that's huge to an 8th grader. So tell me about, how does that make you feel?
Well, I kind of used getting teased in middle school as my drive to do better and better. And my dad told me something before my first game senior year, and I was telling him, like, oh, this team's big, they're a lot bigger than us, but we know we're better. And he says, well, just keep thinking about all the times you were in 7th grade and how you fought through that, and use that as your drive. And I thought about that every game this season. And whenever I thought about it, I had a better play than I did the rest of the game. And that's stuck with me ever since. And knowing that, yes, football is a very physical sport, but it's also a lot more mental than physical.
Absolutely.
And what mentally I went through when I was younger, it just rattled me for years. And seeing where I've become and what I've done since then, it's all piled up, and I've used it as my whole drive and my whole motivation to be better every day.
Wow.
When you spoke to the 8th graders, right, that was a moment for you to really kind of measure where you've come in your life. But do you remember the response afterwards of those kids?
Well, first off, he's very handsome, so all the girls wanted to take a picture.
They wanted, yeah, that was...
So that was so sweet. But you really did, you captured what they're feeling without them having to say it out loud. But they did start to open up.
There are definitely kids that I saw weren't really paying attention. When I said a few more things, more kids opened up, more kids were raising their hands. And just seeing that, kids just shift within a matter of an hour.
And by you sharing your story, and this was what was so empowering that day, was, remember then I know I asked, who here has been bullied? And a few people were brave enough, and I mean brave enough, to stand up. And they shared, and I remember the one boy who was a little bit shorter than others, and he was almost in tears. And you could have heard a pin drop in that room, because none of those kids thought that by teasing him and, really hammering on him, that had that impact on his psyche. And I think they all learned something that day. So by you sharing your story, which is pretty difficult to do, for anybody, never mind that you were a senior in high school, did you feel the shift then?
I did,
yeah.
Definitely. I remember the kid. I don't remember his face, but I remember his story and everything about that. And that stuck with me since then. And seeing someone have such an awful situation, and then 5 minutes later we can joke around and laugh about something completely different and have them have an uplifting mood. And even him crack a couple of jokes.
Oh, absolutely.
That was
well,
awesome.
He was funny. He goes, believe it or not, people tease me because I'm short. And he really was. But he made light of it.
Yeah.
And then shared this such a painful story for him on how, but how that shifted everyone in that room.
Well, and I think for where Cameron says, look, I really don't know where I make a difference, but Kim tells me I make a difference, so I'll believe her, right? So part of that, it's not necessarily has anything to do with being drug and alcohol free.
No.
It's just that human connection. It's
Yes.
just that opportunity for that 8th grader to look at a senior and say, oh, I've got a role model to look up to, you know, or to look at Cameron and say, wow, there's an empowered, inspired young woman who's going places in her life, who is just safe and fun to be around. You can be giddy and laugh with her, as she made me laugh all weekend long, right? And yet I bet her peers could also go to her and say, hey, I'm trying to figure this thing out. You know, I'm trying to, you know, work better at a project, or, you know, I've got a little bit of challenge with some of my friends, or whatever it is. There's someone they can turn to and just have a decent human conversation with. Absolutely. And so it's about that 8th grader connecting to an older, you know, to an older role model. And it's about the peers talking to peers. And it's just about being better people, you know, who happen to also choose to be drug and alcohol free, you know. So it's all those awesome things about life we all need and we all want, and we tend to just put some words on it and talk about it, and put some human faces on it as well.
Do you know, you remember the song that you sang? I can't remember the name of it. When we were at the outside.
Budapest?
Yes.
By George Ezra? Yeah.
Every time that song comes on, I just picture you standing there. And the confidence that you have to sing, you know, the confidence that all the kids that weekend, we need more of that, because if we start to change, you know, it's going to catch like wildfire, I think. I think there are plenty of kids that are caught up in different peer groups that don't want to be in that peer group. Would you agree with that statement? They would like to maybe move towards your peer group, but don't know how to make the transition.
And I also think that they want to be, they want that like popular status, like, oh, I'm too cool to go to hugs, oh, I'm too cool to do this stuff. And they think it's lame, but that's their assumption. They don't go on the weekend. They don't experience what. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing that they're not going. I'm not saying it's a good thing
No, we're
either.
not criticizing anybody. We're just having a conversation.
Yeah.
But I think that sometimes people are envious and keep it quiet. So there's that keeping it quiet again, right? If I say it out loud, somebody's going to think I'm weird, that I want to go there for that weekend.
Yeah, I think it's easy.
You know what Yeah.
It's easy to go to a party on a weekend and to hang out with the popular crew. It's not easy to come out to Shelter Island for the weekend.
Absolutely.
And talk about how, like, talk about life. It's just not, it's not easy to
it's not
have
easy.
that confidence.
And put your cell phone away for a weekend.
Yeah.
That's
That's also not easy.
Yeah.
Challenging.
Yeah. And yet, you guys have done it consistently for years. And I mean, our seminars, we have anywhere between 60 to 100 young people on it from all different school districts in Suffolk County. Cameron, Jordan, they started a brand new program this year in New York City where we took kids from, and this is a really awesome thing, we took kids from Staten Island, the Bronx, Queens, Manhattan, and Brooklyn, and put groups of young people together to talk all about how they become agents of change in their community. And these two were part of a crew that started that. So now there's this awesome thing happening in New York City because young leaders from Eastern Suffolk County started that program there. And there's a national network for this. There are teen institutes all over the country. We keep talking about it as HUGS, but it's really called the Long Island Teen Institute. And there are statewide teen institutes in many other states who are really proven and effective. And one of our goals is not just to start new Teen Institute programs in different communities, but to get that statewide initiative going in New York State, because we know that if we bring leaders from all over the state together, we really can begin to have such an impact when it comes to young people.
But you only need one. If one person changes one person, two people change. You know, it's that
ripple effect.
That ripple effect that just goes out. And now, here's a tough question for you. How do you're away at school, you're away at college, and you're still drug and alcohol free, and how has that been?
Well, people are more accepting in college. Like, there are
Okay.
obviously X amount of kids who are like, oh, you'll start drinking soon. Oh, you'll start doing this. Oh, you should try drinking, you know. And that's not hard to deal with. I've been dealing with that my whole life. But then at our college, we have something called townhouses, which are like frat houses at other schools. And there's a football house there, and everyone goes there after the football games on Saturday. And it's hard because I want to go there, but whenever I do, I don't have a good time because I'm not drinking, because I'm not getting stoned. And everyone there is almost pretty much stoned or high or drunk at that point. And I just go there and I'm just like, I'm not having a good time, so I leave after half an hour anyways.
Right.
You know, I have friends in another hall that I'd rather hang out with them because they're a lot more fun to be around. And they're not even on the team, and I have a better time with them. So that's also part of like the whole culture I don't like. Like, I love the kids on the team, you know, they're my family. But there's also a line that I have.
That you've drawn.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes, you know, whether we're talking about football or we're talking, it becomes a challenge sometimes to seek out and find kids who are making some of the same decisions. And still, you can be a positive influence, whether you're around people who, you know, as long as you're standing for something, right? As long as you're standing for something and giving people an opportunity to maybe think just a little bit different, no matter what the issue is, that's a pretty awesome opportunity to impact change, you know. And so when, whether it's navigating the hallways of high schools or colleges, to begin to just get people just to think about health and just think about just being a little bit better and making the world a little bit better, then that's when we really begin to impact change and really and make a difference.
Do you think at any point in time that you would like to try alcohol?
Well, I don't know. It's a decision. Word mumble. It's a decision I make every day. You know, it's not a life decision. It's something I choose every day. So
it's just this question I just wanted to ask, because I'm sure there are a lot of people saying, any minute now he's going to change his mind.
It could be, but I don't know.
It could be, but today's not that day.
No.
Right. And what do you do? What do you do to just have fun? Give our families that are watching right now, and there are plenty of kids that watch. So what is it that you love to do, that you have the most fun at?
You want to answer that one?
Sure. Well, I hang out with friends that also choose not to drink, and I love the outdoors. So I'll go skiing on a ski trip with them, or we'll go hiking. Like the Quag Wildlife Refuge has trails right by my house. We walk around there, visit the animals. Movies, movie night. It's not hard when you have that group of friends.
Yeah, it isn't
like
hard.
Once you establish that this is who you are and you surround yourself with people who are also making positive decisions, it's not hard.
And there's nothing wrong with staying in any night and just watching Netflix all you want. I did that this weekend and I felt completely fine. I watched some of the best movies I've ever seen. Like,
what's better than like just curling up and especially now that it's cold out.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's the best.
Mm-hmm.
Get your best comfort food and eat to your heart's content.
Mm-hmm.
Well, unfortunately, we've come to the end of our. Thank you guys so much for being here, because I learn from you, and I just applaud. Keep changing the world. Don't stop. Don't stop. Dream big. Wherever you're, change your thoughts, change your mind, change the direction of your life. I want to wish everyone a very happy, healthy, safe Thanksgiving. Tomorrow night does happen to be the biggest amateur drinking night probably in the country. All the kids will be home from school. So keep your kids safe. Keep everybody safe. Kimmy, thank you so much. And have a great night. We'll see you next week.
Another dark hotel room. rusty piece.